Let's look at your bank account for a second. Go ahead, pull it up mentally. You worked hard for that number. You traded 40, maybe 50, or even 60 hours of your life last week to make that number go up. And every year, your boss sits you down, gives you a pathetic 3% cost of living adjustment, and acts like he just handed you the keys to the city. But here is the brutal reality that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. You are getting poorer every single day. You feel it, don't you? The grocery bill that used to be $100 is now $150. The rent that keeps creeping up. The house you wanted to buy 5 years ago that is now mathematically impossible to afford. While your paycheck is crawling up the stairs, the cost of existence is taking the elevator. And what's your solution? You put money in a savings account. A high-yield savings account maybe, earning what? 4%? 5% if you're lucky? Congratulations! After taxes and real inflation, your money is basically stagnant. You aren't building wealth, you're just slowly bleeding out. Most people look at this situation, get paralyzed by fear, and do absolutely nothing. They say stock markets are scary. They say real estate requires too much capital, so they wait. They wait for the right time. They wait for a crash. They wait until they have enough money to start. And 10 years from now, they will look back and realize that waiting was the most expensive decision of their entire lives. But what if I told you that you could fix this entire mess by changing exactly one habit? What if I told you that you could retire a millionaire by doing something so boring, so simple that it sounds like a scam? It's not a scam. It's math. And today, we are going to calculate exactly how you can stop being a victim of the economy and start owning it. Let's back up. How did we get here? Why does it feel like the system is rigged against you? Because it is. But not in the conspiracy theory way. It's rigged in a structural way. Since 1971, when the US dollar was taken off the gold standard, our currency became fiat. That means the government can print as much of it as they want. And boy, do they love printing. When the Fed prints trillions of dollars, the money in your pocket becomes worth less. It's supply and demand. More dollars chasing the same amount of goods equals higher prices. This is inflation. It is the invisible tax that eats your labor. So if you keep your wealth in dollars, under your mattress or in a generic bank account, you are betting on a losing horse. You are betting on a currency that is designed to lose value. The only way to win this game is to stop holding dollars and start holding assets. But which assets? Real estate? Sure, if you have a spare $100,000 for a down payment and enjoy fixing toilets at midnight. Crypto? Great if you have the stomach to watch your net worth drop 50% because a billionaire tweeted a meme. Individual stocks? Good luck picking the next Amazon while dodging the next Enron. There is a better way. A way that the wealthiest people in America have used for decades to stay wealthy. Enter the S&P 500. You've heard the name, but do you actually know what it is? Think of it as the Avengers of Capitalism. The S&P 500 isn't just a stock. It is a basket of the 500 largest, most profitable, most dominant publicly traded companies in the United States. We are talking about the companies that run your life. You wake up to an alarm on your Apple iPhone. You check your email on Microsoft Outlook. You order toothpaste from Amazon. You search for a recipe on Google. You drive a Ford or a Tesla. You stop at Starbucks. You pay with a Visa card. These companies are relentless money-making machines. They employ the smartest people in the world to do one thing: make profit. By buying an S&P 500 ETF, you are not betting on a stock ticker. You are betting on the American economy. You are betting on corporate dominance. You are becoming the owner of the businesses that take your money every single day. Instead of just being the consumer, become the casino. So let's talk numbers, because feelings lie, but math doesn't. Historically, over the last century, the S&P 500 has returned an average of about 10% per year. Sometimes it's up 30%, sometimes it's down 20%, but over long periods, it averages out to about 10%. Let's compare that to your bank account. If you put $10,000 in a bank account 20 years ago, today, you'd have about $15,000 maybe if you were lucky with interest. But in purchasing power, you bought a used Honda Civic back then. Today, that money buys you a nice bicycle. But if you put that same $10,000 into the S&P 500 20 years ago, today it would be worth over $70,000. That is the difference between saving and investing. It's not a small gap. It is a life-changing canyon. Now, I hear you screaming at the screen, "But the market is at an all-time high. What if it crashes tomorrow?" Let me tell you a secret. The market is usually at an all-time high. That's what it does. It goes up. If you waited for a dip 5 years ago, you missed out on massive gains. If you waited 10 years ago, you missed out on a literal fortune. Let's look at the monthly investment strategy. This is where the magic happens. It's called dollar cost averaging, or DCA. Let's say you commit to investing $500 a month. That's it. Maybe that sounds like a lot, but look at your bank statement. How much went to DoorDash? How much went to subscriptions you don't watch? How much went to overpriced coffee or impulse buys on Amazon? For most people making a decent living, $500 is found in the waste. If you invest $500 a month into an S&P 500 ETF, and we assume that historical 10% return, in 10 years you don't have $60,000, which is what you put in, you have roughly $100,000. In 20 years, you have nearly $380,000. In 30 years, medium pause, you have over $1.1 million. Wait, look at that math again. In 30 years, you only put in $180,000 of your own cash, but the account has over $1 million in it. Where did that other $900,000 come from? It came from the companies working for you. It came from compound interest. It came from your money having babies and those babies having babies. Long pause. But here is why you won't do it. You have 3 distinct delusions in your head right now. Delusion number 1, I need a huge lump sum to start. Wrong. You can buy fractional shares for literally $1 on most apps now. The barrier to entry is 0. Delusion number 2, I don't know which stock to pick. We just solved that. You don't pick one, you pick all 500. You buy the haystack, not the needle. Delusion number 3, it's too risky. Let's be real about risk. Medium pause. Risk is holding cash that guarantees a loss of purchasing power due to inflation. Risk is relying on Social Security to save you in 2050. Investing in the top 500 companies in America? That's not risk, that's a survival strategy. And let's talk about the specific vehicle for this. How do you actually do it? You don't need a guy in a suit charging you 1% fees to tell you this. You do it yourself. You are looking for ETFs, exchange-traded funds. The most famous ones? VOO by Vanguard, IVV by BlackRock, SPY by State Street. What's the difference? Basically nothing. It's like choosing between Coke and Pepsi. They all track the same S&P 500 index. VOO and IVV have slightly lower fees than SPY, so most long-term investors stick with those. The expense ratio is something like 0.03%. That means for every $10,000 you invest, they charge you $3 a year. That is practically free. Compare that to mutual funds your bank tries to sell you with 1% or 2% fees. Over a lifetime, that 2% fee could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do not let the bank rob you. Buy the ETF directly. Now, let me address the elephant in the room, the lump sum versus DCA debate. You might be thinking, I have $10,000 saved up. Should I dump it all in now or spread it out? Here is a story about 2 investors. Let's call them Panic Pete and Steady Steve. Panic Pete saves up cash. He waits. He watches the news. He sees the market drop and gets scared, so he waits more. Finally, when the market is booming, he gets FOMO and dumps all his money in at the top. Then the market corrects, he loses 10%, freaks out, and sells. Pete is an idiot. Don't be Pete. Steady Steve doesn't watch the news. Steve sets up an automatic transfer. On the 1st of every month, $500 leaves his checking account and buys VOO. When the market is high, his $500 buys fewer shares. When the market crashes, this is the best part. When the market crashes, Steve's $500 buys more shares. He is buying stocks on sale. While everyone else is crying because the market is red, the DCA investor is silently cheering because they are accumulating more shares at a discount. When the market recovers, and it always has, Steve's portfolio explodes upwards because he loaded up the truck when things were cheap.
This removes the emotions. You don't have to be smart, you just have to be consistent. So, here is your roadmap. No fluff, just action. Step 1, open the right account. If you're in the US, you want tax advantages. Look at a Roth IRA. You put money in after taxes, but it grows tax-free, and you pull it out tax-free in retirement. If you max that out, use a standard brokerage account. You can do this on Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard, or even modern apps like Robinhood or M1 Finance. It takes 15 minutes. Step 2, select your weapon. Search for ticker symbol VOO or IVV. Step 3, the most critical step. Automate it. Do not rely on your willpower. You are human. Your willpower is weak. You will find a reason to spend that money on a new phone or a weekend trip. Set up an auto deposit for the day after your paycheck hits. Treat it like a bill. You pay Netflix. You pay your landlord. You pay the electric company. Why aren't you paying your future self? Make it non-negotiable. I want to leave you with this thought. Warren Buffett, arguably the greatest investor of all time, made a bet in 2007. He bet $1 million against a group of top hedge fund managers. These were the smartest guys in the room. They used complex algorithms, leverage, short selling, fancy Wall Street stuff. Buffett simply bought an S&P 500 index fund and did nothing. He literally sat on his hands for 10 years. The result? The hedge funds, after their high fees and fancy trading, returned decent money. But Buffett? He crushed them. He destroyed them. The simple, boring index fund outperformed the smartest active managers in the world. Buffett's instructions for his own wife's inheritance were simple. Put 10% in short-term government bonds and 90% in a very low-cost S&P 500 index fund. If it is good enough for Warren Buffett's family, it is good enough for you. You have a choice today. You can keep doing what you're doing, complaining about inflation, staring at a stagnant savings account and hoping the government saves you, or you can take control. You can harness the power of the 500 biggest companies in America. You can let compound interest do the heavy lifting. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Stop thinking. Stop waiting. Start compounding. Check the description for resources. Hit that like button if you want to stop being broke, and I'll see you in the next one.